Coulter, I was in Bozeman for the Bobcat game a couple of weeks ago, and while I was there, I went over to the corner of Jackrabbit and Baxter and headed into the brand new Cathedral of Guns, Selway Armory. It was absolutely phenomenal. Their new store in Bozeman is everything you want and more, including a Sig Sauer store right in the Selway Armory store.
Got some confusion from a couple people that listen to this podcast. They said, what is Sig Sauer? And they spelled it like cigarette. But no, we're talking Sig Sauer, like Sigsaeur. Some of the best handguns you'll find anywhere. They're experts when it comes to Sig Sauers, as well as all other handguns, as well as all other firearms. Locations in both Missoula and Bozeman, but get your butt to that new Bozeman store. It's a beautiful store, unbelievable inventory, and those guys are experts. They'll help you find whatever it is you need.
Hunting season, recreation, we all have people on our Christmas list, or maybe it's you yourself. Yes, I must say, once in a while it's nice to get your own self a present. You go in there, all of the guns, ammunition, accessories that you could imagine, and Coulter, as you mentioned, absolute experts. They know everything there is to know about the entire inventory they've got. Online, SelwayArmory.com. Montana is a gun enthusiast state. It's a hunting state, and Selway Armory is Montana's firearm superstore.
Take the Selway Armory Challenge. Shop with Selway Armory for a year. Guarantee you're going to save money over the big box stores or anywhere else you might shop. Do yourself a favor. No matter where you're from in Montana, if you're making your way through southwest Montana, go see that new Selway Armory. And if you're in Missoula, go check out their location out Stockyard Road. Selway Armory, great products at a great price, along with world-class customer service.
All right. Morning, guys and gals. How we doing? Good. Doing good. All right. So, quick opening statement. Clearly a very impactful and important win for our program on Saturday evening. Just with the magnitude of the contest for UC Davis, with it being senior day, Jake Mayer setting a school record for passing yards in a career. The opportunity for them to potentially still get an at-large bid in the playoffs, night game, good crowd, all those things, and for our guys to just kind of fight the way they did, and then really truly to finish in the fourth quarter in all three phases. Tristan was big as far as kicking those field goals, defensively, smothering effort in the fourth quarter, and then it was great to get back to a little ground and pound at the end. I mean, you can see teams make it very difficult for us to run the ball, especially early in games because of what we do stylistically. But if we can get this thing in the fourth quarter, those things, as we always say, kind of those body blows turn into knockout shots. And so really good win, and now it's on to the Montana Grizzlies, 119th Brawl in the Wild, Montana Super Bowl. I don't think we need to talk about it a whole lot, honestly. The hype machine will go into overdrive, but it's really unnecessary. I think that we've got two ranked opponents that I think represent the best that this state has to offer on both sides. And so it's interesting now after being here a couple of years, there's a lot of young men that wear the other colors that are certainly guys that we recruited and know through the recruiting process, came to our camps. You get to know the kids, and it's kind of fun actually to see how they're developing within that program, and I'm sure the same thing's true on the other side. Really impressed with the job that Coach Houck has done in year two. I think he's clearly addressed some issues on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I mean, what I see is a bigger, better offensive line, and I think that has allowed them to be more balanced. You look at their statistically, rushing for more yards per game than they did a year ago. I think the Knight kid, number 21, is a good back, but I really think it's their commitment to being more balanced on offense and the improvement of the offensive line. I think Coach Strimmer's done an awesome job with that group. They went out and got some guys, but they're a year older, a year more experienced. As I said, they're a bigger, more physical group overall, and I really think that that's helped them to balance their offense out. Tight ends are a big part of their offense. And that's they'll run 11 personnel, 12 personnel, and then they'll run, depending on the game plan, a lot of 13 personnel, 3 tight ends and 1 back. You saw that a ton against Eastern Washington, saw it a good amount against Portland State and Idaho, and so that creates some matchup problems on the field, and those guys are not just good run blockers, but they're also legitimate targets in the pass game. The Bingham kid is kind of the primary guy, but Deming, and they've got a bunch of different good-looking kids at tight end, and then you kind of start to shift it out. And you look at number 18 and number 8 and number 16. Those 3 guys, kind of a 3-headed monster. Torre and Akeem have kind of similar skill sets. Big, tall, athletic guys, win 50-50 balls, can break tackles on short gains. Very competitive guys, and they have top-end speed. And then, Jerry Louis McGee's got his own skill set. I mean, he's a very good complement to those other two guys. And so that's kind of what I see on offense. Defensively, I think Coach Bear's done an awesome job. They're a really difficult defense to prepare for because of all the pre-snap and post-snap movement that you get. I think that, I think Jesse Sims is having a really nice year. I think that kid's playing really well, number 37. Their linebackers are really good. I mean, I think that's the heart and soul of their defense. And they use a lot of them, kind of depending on what the down and distance is and how they're trying to attack you at different moments. And so, he kind of always is going to go through the Olsen kid, 33. I mean, he's one of the things that stands out to me about their defense, and I think is if you're a guy that really understands defensive football, you can really appreciate this, is they pursue the ball very, very well. I mean, this group runs to the ball. They tackle well. But even if they miss a tackle, the eraser is always effort, and these kids play really hard. And so you look at what they've got at linebacker there, and then you go to the next level, and they've got three guys. I mean, I kind of consider Sandry, even though he's a Sam linebacker, he's kind of a safety body type, 13. And then you got two, the Robertson kid from the Arizona transfer. He's really playing a ton better. You can see a year in the system. He's really starting to kind of come into his own. And then the Hout kid, 17, obviously, is a kid that's one of their leading tacklers. And so on all three levels of defense, I think they're very sound. They're very, very high blitz percentage. Whether they're bringing five-man pressure or what we call bogus pressure, where they're bringing a guy off the ball and still only pushing forward to quarterback, about 70% of the time. So you're going to get an add-on blitz almost all the time from somewhere. And I think that's something that's challenging to deal with. And I talked about the pre- and post-snap movement. Special teams, I think this is the best return group in the league. I think the combination of Jerry Lou McGee as the punt returner and then the Flowers kid, number 19, is their kick returner. I think those guys create a lot of problems for you, and they're very dynamic. Both of those individuals have touchdown returns this year, and we've got to do a great job of keeping the ball away from those guys. And when they get it, we got to swarm and tackle. And then, the Purdy kid's about 75%, I think, on field goals on the season, and their coverage units are good. I mean, these kids, I know Coach Choate takes a lot of pride in the special teams units, and you can see that coming out through film. So I think this is a very, very good football team, much improved over a year ago, and I think deserving of their ranking. And we're excited to host them here at Bobcat Stadium at noon on Saturday. Happy to take any questions.
You complimented Houck in the job that he's done this year. What's kind of stood out to you about what he's done with the program?
Well, I think that you can see more maybe his identity, his stamp on things. I think he's a guy that really wants to run the ball and understands the importance of stopping the run. And they're one of the best run-stopping defenses in the league. And so they've certainly put a premium on that. And then, as I said, they invested in that offensive line. And, Chad Germer's a really good football coach. And, it's probably just a matter of time. And stylistically, what they did with Coach Stitt was different than what Coach Houck wants to do. And sometimes that transition is going to take a little bit. But you can see the investment they've made in getting bigger and stronger on the offensive line, the coaching and the technique that has improved. And I think that's what's really pushed their offense forward. I'd be obviously remiss if I didn't mention Dalton Snead. And, he's a young man that makes the whole thing go. You talk about all these component parts, but, he's a guy that he's a courageous leader. You can just tell that. He's a tough kid, built thick in the lower body, hard to bring down in the open field, accurate passer, very strong arm, and he has that confidence, that swagger you can kind of just see. And you could even see, as good as Cam did for him in terms of running their show for him, but when things got down at Idaho, you insert that guy, and there's an immediate jump in the performance of everybody in that huddle. And so that tells you what kind of leader he is. And so, that's what we're up against. We got a lot of guys that have made a lot of plays. They, not unlike the team we played last week, they got a lot of boys they can go to. And I think those two receivers are different. I think they're different in terms of the level of competition that they could potentially play at. And, again, this is a veteran coaching staff. You look at guys like Kent Bear, who's been everywhere. This guy's, he's going to have answers. Talked about Chad and his ability to coach that offensive line. He's been a lot of places. He's going to have answers. Brent Pease is going to have answers, and he's got those receivers playing at a really high level. You got a guy like Rosie who's calling the plays. So it's a veteran coaching staff that has kind of now got their stamp and imprint on this team.
The way that you guys were able to confuse and kind of fluster Jake last week, how big is that going to be this week, and how hard would it be to do that same thing to Dalton?
Well, I think one of the things that happens is you get a lot of stuff on film, and there's a lot of similarities between really the last three teams that we've played. They're all kind of spread gun run offenses and built on some RPO concepts. Montana will get into, like I said, the heavy sets a little bit more, and they have a different package that they run out of that. But their DNA plays don't change. They run a bunch of spacing routes. You get your vertical concepts with 8 and 18. RPO slant game was big for them last week against Weber State. They hit him in the mouth with a couple of big plays on that. And so their DNA plays don't really change. but the component parts do, and I think that's one of the reasons why they've gelled so well at offense, and Dalton does a tremendous job of leading that group.
The defensive line for Montana seems to have gained quite a bit of depth. What have you seen from some of the new players that you have not played with?
Yeah, it's interesting because they roll a lot of guys in and out there, obviously. Sims is kind of the stalwart, and he kind of plays through downs. 99's a guy that shows up. But they'll play those linebacker body types a lot at or near the line of scrimmage. And so that's really an extension of their defensive line is their linebacker core with some of the bogus pressure stuff that they do. I just think that, if you want me to describe their defense, they play hard. They create problems for you with the movement and the pressure, but at the end of the day, they play hard. And I think if you're a defensive coach, that's what you want people to turn the tape on and say, man, this group plays hard. And they've got our respect and our attention from that perspective.
They play a lot of free safety look, a lot like you guys have this year. Do you gain any intuition from knowing some of those schemes that you guys have implemented with some of the free safety?
Yeah, I think there's some similarities. There are definitely some similarities between what they do and kind of some of the stuff that we've evolved into against the lighter set teams. Personnel's different, clearly, and how they go about fitting the run is different. And so in the pass game, maybe there's a little bit more carryover, but not so much in the run game because of how they fit things with their pre-snap movement, their bogus pressure, and their post-snap movement.
Talk a little bit about their special teams. How different does your preparation become when you got to worry about guys like Jerry, Louie, McGee? There's that third aspect of their game that you now have to prepare.
Well, everybody has a kick returner and a punt returner, so we prepare for it every week. Certainly, he's a good player and he's got a great history, and I think he's a really good punt returner. I think that's the thing I think about him. He's just got that ability in the open field. He's fearless, all those things. So we played against him 3 years in a row. Like I said, everybody's got a punt returner, everybody's got a kickoff returner, everybody schemes in special teams. Not like all of a sudden 1/3 of the game, now we got to turn the light on. That's not the case. But they definitely have our attention, and we know we're going to have to prepare at a high level.
You talked about the run fits being a little bit different. With that bogus pressure, do you see an advantage, maybe being able to catch them off guard at times?
It's all going to be, that's going to be the whole key, right? We're not reinventing ourselves. They're not reinventing themselves. Kind of over 11 games, you've got what you've got on film, and you kind of are who you are. And I think the mistake can be made that trying to do something different dramatically and reinvent the wheel, so to speak. And so, if we run the ball enough and effectively enough, we're going to get some creases. That's the nature of it. And they're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to make some plays too. And so I think that's what, it's probably just going to be a big game of momentum swings like it kind of seems to always be. And I think that's one of the things Montana's done a really good job. When they get going, they've kind of, they've turned the gas on a little bit a couple times, and that kind of started to happen to us last year up there. And so we've just got to do a good job of maintaining our poise and staying in the moment and playing the next play, and get it into a fourth quarter game. That's really what we're trying to do.
How is this week different just around the team? Or I don't know, is it different at all? Or kind of how would you describe that?
Yeah, I think it's different. I think our guys are. We have 45% of our roster is Montana kids. They got a bunch of Montana kids. I think it's foolish not to pretend that like this isn't a big deal. These guys are going to have to answer to this for the rest of their lives. This is a forever game, and so. But you can't make more out of it in terms of that performance anxiety curve. We've got to kind of stay in the. Our preparation's got to be excellent, but it can't be different. I'm not changing the schedule, none of that. I think we're all a creature of habit, and we got to stay to our routine and stay focused. And but I think our guys are, they'll be excited. It's going to be hard not to be excited. And it's a great game against. This is what the Big Sky Conference is all about. Is having two good Montana teams that get to hook it up at the end of the year with stuff on the line, and that's the way it should be.
How crucial is that, though, that they are able to control those emotions on game day?
Well, kind of like I tell them, I'm not a big pregame speech guy, and part of the reason is because you can throw all that stuff out the window after about 2 minutes of game time. There's going to be a lot of emotion in pregame. Guys are going to have to manage it. You almost have to just have that release, just get it out, so that you can go focus and stay in the green zone, as we like to call it, from a mental preparation standpoint, and not go to red. And there's going to be moments where things get heated, but I think both of these programs are class programs, and we'll settle it between the white lines the way it's supposed to be, and it'll be a good game.
Obviously, you love all your seniors, but you have an extra soft spot for some of these fifth-year guys that were here before you got here and stuck out and helped lay the foundation.
Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time with this on the senior deal because this group is really special to me, and I'm trying to stay away from it, because again, that kind of comes back to the taking away from the preparation and staying in the moment. And we'll have our banquet on Sunday and we'll talk about that. But I just have a ton of respect for those guys that stuck it out, and it was a mass exodus. And here's the thing about. And it's kind of unfortunate. You look around like FBS football, for example, I think 78% of the coaches in FBS football are second or third year coaches, first, second, or third year coaches in a program. And so what happens nowadays is obviously the recruiting cycle has gotten longer and you develop more strong relationships over a longer cycle. So when there's a coaching change, what happens? All the guys that you develop these relationships with leave. And here you're an 18 to 22-year-old kid that came from wherever, and you walk into a situation and you're like, man, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And so for those guys to buy into us and what we were trying to do here was awesome. I mean, I think they're all great Bobcats. They're survivors, which is a heck of an important quality in this life. And we'll have probably be a few tears shed on Sunday when we start talking about them a little bit more. But I'm proud of them and honored to have had the opportunity to coach them.
We've all talked about records kind of being thrown out the window for a game like this. What levels the playing field so much in this kind of rivalry?
That's a good question. I mean, preparation, not getting caught up in the hype, not listening to the outside noise, and staying in the moment. And I think that's, kind of what you have to do in these situations. I mean, the bigger the game, the more poise you have to bring to the table. And I think that's something that we, try to do.
With Travis, Troy, and Isaiah, I think all scoring touchdowns last week, how much does it kind of help the offense having those guys, healthy?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Travis being nicked up for the last couple of weeks, and he was a major impact for us. In big games, your playmakers have to arrive, period. I mean, if you don't have your best guys ready to go compete and make plays for you, that's going to be an advantage for the opponent. And so for a big game at Davis and to have all three of those guys contribute in major ways on offense, and certainly Troy had a tremendous game on defense as well, was big. But probably the one big run that Travis had was huge. But I think everybody felt that Isaiah, a couple of the runs that he made, you're going, oh, he's back. And that felt really good. Because I think he's one of the best backs in this league. And we've been without his services basically the entire season.
This team doesn't rotate a ton in the secondary. Do you see any advantages there that you can take advantage of?
I think they'll roll some safeties at times, and I don't know if it's because game situation dictated that. But matchups are always a part of this game, and so they're trying to find ways to get their good guys on guys they feel like they have an advantage on, and we've got to try to do the same.
You touched on Marcus Knight, but how big of a difference has he been for that?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think any running back would tell you you're only as good as your offensive line. And so I think he's a really good player who's gotten the benefit of the old line. That's their commitment to the run game as well as the improvement on their offensive line.
Troy scored a touchdown in the last 5 games, also had a tackle for loss in each one of those games. Can you just kind of speak to the unprecedented nature of that? Have you been around a player like that? I know we spoke about it a little bit before.
No, I haven't. Not that kind of production over that span, and be able to give you a spark on the offensive side of the ball when you need it, and playing really consistently at a high level on defense. I think, you get to the end of the year, you start talking about this stuff, and I know maybe he didn't play on that side of the ball the entire year, but the impact that he's had on that side of the ball during our league games, I don't know that anybody's had a bigger impact on the defensive side than he has. You can look at the guys up front for Sac State that are getting a bunch of sacks, and Dante is a tackling machine, but they don't match him up on their best receiver and say take him vertical. I think just the unique nature of his skill set separates him.
And with so much that's asked of him, is he just continuing to just be game for whatever you guys ask him?
He's smart, tough, resilient, and he's an ultimate team guy, which is very impressive. Good? All right.
Oh, hold on. Wait, can I ask my questions? Did he warn you? I have my BRAWL questions like last year, so you got to go with me.
All right, there we go. He didn't warn me.
Okay. I'm surprised. Okay, the first one, if there was a fight between Champ and Monty, how would it go and what would the finishing move be?
Where are we getting this? Well, clearly, have you met? I know who Champ is. I do not know who Monty is, so I don't have. I don't know that I can properly handicap this. But for me, being an old wrestler, you know, we'd have to just go old head and arm and put him down. I mean, that would be the ultimate move. And I got my money on Champ because I know he wrestled in high school. So there you go.
Okay. Question 2. Do you like the name, the Brawl of the Wild, and how do you feel like it kind of fits?
I do like the name. There's probably some purists that would prefer for it to be other things, but you know, you look at it, it used to be called the Copper Bowl back in the day. I think it's been called the Montana Power Classic. I mean, Montana Power, which is now Northwest Energy, had some pull back then. You know, Cat Griz is probably what most people relate to it. But I do think that from a marketing standpoint, it works, and I think it's appropriate for, you know, the game itself.
Okay, last one, I promise. What are your thoughts on the trophy, and how would you describe what it looks like?
Well, it looks like Trophy Rock. So if you drive over the Continental Divide as you're heading north towards Butte from here, you look off to your right-hand side, and it looks exactly like that. They did a pretty good job with the likeness. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a big old hunk of bronze, and it's really heavy, and I think it's a fitting prize for the victor. Let's say that.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks. You bet.
Selway Armory, Montana's firearms superstore, is now open for business and hiring all positions. If you want an exciting job with great compensation and one where you can become an expert in the field, put your application in now at Selway Armory. You can apply in person at their new location at the corner of Jackrabbit and Baxter, or send in your application via email to employment@selwayarmory.com. That's employment@selwayarmory.com. Turn your passion into a profession with Selway Armory, Montana's firearms superstore.